You know, we've been sending people to space for decades now, but we're really just scratching the surface of what these long-duration missions do to our bodies. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most incredible human experiments ever, all to find some answers.
So what really happens to your body after a year in space? I mean, this is the billion-dollar question, right? Especially if we're ever serious about going to Mars. How does the human body actually hold up when it's pushed to the absolute limit in an environment it was never meant for?
Well, to get at that answer, NASA had this perfect once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. An experiment so ideal you couldn't have designed it better if you tried. They had identical twin astronauts. One would go to space, and the other would stay right here on Earth, serving as a genetically perfect control subject.
Okay, so let's get into it. This whole setup allowed scientists to really isolate all the crazy variables of spaceflight like they never could before. Here's a look at how they pulled it off. I mean, this was the ultimate nature versus nurture experiment. You've got the flight twin up on the ISS for 340 days, and then his brother, the ground twin, just living his life on Earth. By comparing the two, researchers could basically filter out all the noise from genetic differences and focus only on the changes caused by being in space.
And they were super methodical about it. The whole thing broke down into 3 key phases. First, they collected tons and tons of data before the flight to get a solid baseline. Then, they kept monitoring everything during those 340 days in orbit. And finally, they followed up for more than 6 months after he got back to see what changed, and more importantly, what changes actually stuck around.
So, what happens when you take a human body and just leave it in microgravity for almost a year? Well, the results were, let's just say, a mix of what we expected and some stuff that was genuinely weird.
Almost right away, his body started to adapt. Fluid shifted up to his head, causing that classic puffy face astronauts get. His vision was affected, the bacteria in his gut totally changed, and his heart even started to physically reshape itself for the new environment. But honestly, the wildest changes were happening way down at the cellular level.
Okay, so to get one of the biggest surprises here, you gotta understand what a telomere is. The easiest way to think about it is, you know the little plastic tips on your shoelaces? The things that keep them from fraying? That's kind of what telomeres are for our chromosomes. And normally, here on Earth, they get shorter as we get older. It's like a ticking clock for aging.
So here's the shocker. The twin in space, his telomeres actually got longer. Yeah, you heard that right, longer. It's like his biological aging clock was running backwards, at least by this one measurement. The big question is why? We're not totally sure, but one leading idea is that the super strict diet and exercise routine in space might have something to do with it. But would it last once he got back?
As strange as things got up there, the real stress test was coming home. Readapting to Earth's gravity? Turns out that's one of the most intense parts of the whole mission.
Literally, the second he was back, his body just went into shock. He had this huge spike in inflammation, all these stress signals in his immune system, these things called cytokines, they just went through the roof. It was a clear sign that just being back in 1G is a massive jolt to the system.
But, and this is the really cool part, this is where you see just how incredibly resilient the human body is. Because even after that initial shock, most of the changes from space started flipping back to normal almost right away.
And they actually put a number on it. Get this, a whopping 93% of his gene expression, all those genes that had changed in space, snapped right back to how they were before he left. It's like his body knew was home and just hit the reset button.
But what about that other 7%? Yeah, that's where things get a little more concerning. A small but really significant chunk of those changes didn't go away, and those pointed to some pretty serious long-term risks.
So Section 4, scars from space. Because that's really what these lasting changes are. They're like little scars left over from his time in orbit. You know, one of the biggest dangers out there, once you leave the safety of Earth's magnetic field, is space radiation. On the ISS, astronauts are getting hit with a constant barrage of these high-energy particles that can just slice right through your DNA.
And this image? Wow, this makes that invisible threat totally visible. You're looking at what radiation damage can do to chromosomes. You see these things called inversions? That's where a piece of the chromosome literally gets broken off and reattached backwards. That kind of instability is really worrying because it's linked to a higher risk of things like cancer down the road.
And here's the really scary part. This damage didn't just stop or heal when you got back to Earth. Nope. The number of these damaged chromosomes actually kept increasing for months after he landed. It suggests his genome was left in a kind of permanently unstable state.
And there was more. Remember those telomeres that got longer in space? Well, back on Earth, they shortened up really fast, leaving him with more of these dangerously short telomeres that he started with. And, on a more practical level, his cognitive abilities, his speed and accuracy on tests, took a hit. And that slump lasted for months. Now just imagine an astronaut trying to perform a critical task after a long journey to Mars. That's a serious problem.
Okay, so our final section, the final frontier? After all this, what's the big takeaway? What does this incredible experiment tell us about the future of sending people deep into space?
Just look at this chart for a second. It gives you a sense of the mind-boggling scale of this study. Each of those rings is a different layer of our biology, from our DNA blueprint all the way up to the proteins that do all the work in our bodies. This is, without a doubt, the most complete picture we've ever had of what happens to a person when they go to space and come back.
So what was the official conclusion? Well, it's cautiously optimistic. They basically said that for a mission of this length, about a year, human health can be, and I'm quoting here, mostly sustained. It really is a testament to how adaptable we are.
But here's the real kicker, the central question this whole study leaves us with. On the one hand, you have incredible resilience, 93% of genes just snapping back to normal. But on the other hand, you have serious, lasting damage, like scarred DNA and lingering cognitive issues. A year in space is one thing, but a trip to Mars? That could take 3 years. This study gives us the best roadmap we've ever had of the risks. But it also makes you wonder, are we really ready for that next